Hello, my name is Clint William, a training manager and content developer at First Deal. And in this video, we're going to do a complete overview of the training module. We'll talk about the setup, then we'll navigate to the dashboard, we'll hit training classes, we'll go over the training log, and then we'll finish with the certifications. But before we begin, let's navigate to the admin module, because within the training module, there will be permissions for certain roles. So once we navigate to the roles, select what role you want to give permissions to that in the training module. So with the training dropdown, you can select what permissions you want to give that role. And then always select save. So now let's navigate to the training to setup. From the setup, you're going to see a settings tab, categories, topics, objectives, locations, instructor types, standards types, templates, and field management. Under the settings tab, you can set to send a notification to any training that is overdue. And using the arrows or just typing in how many days do you want to define as overdue for training. And then you can also send that notification to anyone within your agency by typing in their name and then selecting on them. What that'll do is going to send, once that training, by your definition of 3 to 5, whatever days you select, will send a notification of that overdue training to whoever is filled in here. If they don't want to, if they do not wish, select on that red X and that will delete them. Just below that is the enable payroll summary grid. And what that is if an agency is using the LOSAP, or you get points, pay rates, stipends, this is where you're going to check that payroll summary grid. There are 3 modules that have that payroll summary grid. It is the training, the activities, along with INFRS incident documentation. Next 3 are the categories, topic, and objectives. These 3 are all very similar on how you build those out. But the first one we want to talk about is the categories. This is your main bulk. So this should have the fewest list in there. So as we talk about the categories, you can go EMS, fire, whatever those categories are going to have the bulk topics in them. At the top is the advanced search fields, where you can search for categories by their name, when they were started, when they ended, or who created them. Just below that, you can see the add category or import categories and active archived. So these are any of your active, and if any have been deleted, then that would fall under the archived. Along with that, in these grids, you can resort these in ascending, descending order by selecting on the column header. Within the actions columns, you're able to edit any category or delete any category. If you wish to add a category, select on that add category, give it a name, and then if you want to validate is required for that category, then select create. If you wish to edit, you can select on that pencil, edit any information, then select update. If you're going to import categories, notice we have a sample spreadsheet. It is recommended that you download that sample spreadsheet and fill in your CSV file to match that, save it, and then choose the file from your computer and then import. Topics, that is just a bucket underneath the category. So when we talk about categories, so if you have an EMS category, your topics could be CPR classes, ACLS, PALS classes. Those are all the topics that will fall under that EMS category. And again, the same at the top is the advanced search fields, active archived, add topic, import topics. Same with the column headers. The objectives, just like the categories and topics. Now, these are further in your details on what was performed in these topics. So if you have EMS and CPR, then objectives is hands-on CPR, attaching a defibrillator. These were all objectives that were completed within these categories and topics. Again, you can see the advanced search field. You can add objective. You can import objectives. You have the active archive. And again, selecting on that column header. We'll resort. Locations. You can add locations of wherever your trainings are going to take event. So if it's offsite or at a firehouse, wherever your locations will be, you can add that location, give it the name of the location and the address, city, state, and zip, then select create. Again, you can edit any of that information by selecting the pencil icon or delete any location by selecting the trash can icon. Instructor types. These are all the instructor types that are going to be performing within your agency. So you can have the company officer, lead, assistant, any kind of instructor types you wish to add. Again, that advanced search field, if you wish to add an instructor, you just give it the name and select create. If you want to edit using the pencil, or you can delete using the trash can. Again, with all these fields, you can bulk delete by selecting on them or selecting the top box and then hitting the trash can. Next, we're moving to standards. So if you're tracking your training by standards, either if it's ISO, NFPA, whatever standards you use, you can manually add a standard or you can import standards. If you're going to add a standard, you'll have to give it a standard set, the code, and a title. Description is not required, but you can cut and paste the description of that standard, select create. If you wish to import standards, you can select on that import. Again, notice that sample spreadsheet. You can download that, then fill in all your information, save it, and choose that file to import. Just like all the other categories, topics, objectives, you have those grid that you can sort ascending, descending order. You can bulk delete, and then anything that is active or archived. Again, editing by selecting the pencil or using the trash can to delete any standards. Training types. This could be as your online training, practical training, any of the training types that you're going to perform within your agency. You can add that by selecting add type, give it a type name, any description, and then this active. If this is an active type of training, you will select that and hit create. Again, you can edit any of these trainings types or delete. The same goes for that active, if anything is currently active or if they're archived. Templates. You can build training templates. So instead of repeating that, building that training class over and over, now you can create templates for that training class. So if there is a training that you guys perform weekly, daily, monthly, you can create a template for that. Then when whoever goes in and fills that template out, all they have to do is put in attendee's name and hit complete, or however you set that class up. But you can add a template by selecting on add a template and then filling out any of the information, such as the training category, which is going to be built when you guys build your categories, topics, and objectives. Same with the types of training. It's going to fall under training topic, and then the class name, template name, and location. If you have the national course, state course, or internal course ID, you can put that in here. You can upload any attachments, PDFs, or files by selecting here. And then notice this limited edit allowed. And I'll give you a demonstration of that with that check. But what that does, if you're using a template, creating a class from a template, and this is checked, then some of these fields will not be able to be edited when you're creating that class from a template. If this is not checked, whoever goes in and uses that template will be able to edit any information about that class. Also, you can add objectives. So these are objectives that you built out by hitting the plus, whatever objectives you guys want, and whatever standards you wish to associate, and if there's any certificates that are tied to that training. And again, here is where you can add the hours for that template in this objective. The field management. In the field management, this is allowing you to customize what is going to be required when filling out a training class. And to do that, you can select the custom field management. And from here, the drop down, you can select what field. So from the training class module, what section is pulling from, either the class, the objective, or attendees, and then what you want to require. Once you hit create, it's going to create this custom field management. And from here, you can edit any of those or delete. So for this training class module, section class training category, if we go in and edit that, all we can do is edit the drop down and change that. But you'll notice this is required. So when we're filling out a training class, this section class and the category is going to be required before we can complete that training. So once you have any edited or any updates, you select that update. Now we'll navigate to the dashboard. The dashboard is when the user signs in, this is going to be their dashboard and any upcoming classes they may have. Also, you'll see a completed training. This is more just a training log where they can come through. They can see the training that has been performed. Selecting this eye icon will allow them to see who completed this training. But going back over to this upcoming classes, you'll notice these are red, that they're overdue. And it says self-complete or go to class. Depending on how this class is set up and permissions, they can either self-complete all these objectives, or they can go to the class. If it's a training officer, can go to that class, complete those objectives. This is your objectives. If it's green, that means I have one of one objectives completed. Why it's not off of my dashboard is because that whole training class is not completed. Below here, you'll see it. There's the 3 objectives. I have 1 of 3 completed. Down here, I have none of objectives completed. So using these hyperlinks will actually take you to the training classes list, or we can select on self-complete if that class was set up. And we'll talk about that when we build a training class. But if we select on the self-complete, you can see up here, I completed this on permissions based. I can unmark that not complete, you can see. And then any attachments of file, I can view these attachments, select save. For this self-complete on this objective, you can see complete all. There are a slider that will allow you person objectives at once or individual at a time. So if this is up here, you can see this one's completed. These 2 need to be completed. Once I select that, it completes all objectives at the same time. I hit the save, and you'll note now that 3 of 3 objectives have been completed. For this class, I am not able to self-complete. I have to go to that class, and this is going to take me into that class. When we go to build a class, we'll talk about all this, but the class objectives, attendees, this is where, if you're a training officer, you're going to complete everyone who's in that class. This was where I was at. I have the permissions to complete, so I could hit that pencil and I can complete an individual at a certain time. I can complete individuals one at a time. Or if you're the training officer and everybody has completed all objectives in that training class, you can hit the complete button at the top, and it's going to mark everyone as complete for that class by proceeding anyway. Now back to the dashboards. We're going to navigate to the training classes. And from here, you're going to see the advanced search fields. Now, depending on your screen size, you may hit this down arrow and you're going to have more categories to choose from. So you can filter your training classes by start date, by the attendee, by the category, topics, if you're looking for the class name, and then if you tie the national, state, or internal ID, if you want to search by location, what kind of training type it was, the status. So if you're one who is going through and completing trainings, you can do that by status, or if you're looking by instructor. So to search by attendee, I can start typing in my name, hitting the select and apply. These are all the training classes. Now I can see the training classes that I have either completed or I need to still complete certain objectives. Also with this grid, Now you're able to, you can resort these in ascending, descending order. And once they're all in here, you can download these into a CSV file if you're tracking for your training records. Note though that 1 of 13 is showing. If you had more to download, you would need to highlight whatever you want to be able to download. Permissions based, again, I can go in and edit any of these training classes using the pencil icon. I can select on the trash can icon to delete that training, and then you'll notice the print on the training classes. If I select print, I'm going to get a couple information or a couple options. The print standard report, which is just that report of it, or I can print a report with signatures. So if your agency has the personnel module and everybody's uploaded, if your agency is using and gone in and in their personnel information has uploaded the signature, you can print that report with all signatures attached. So hitting that, if they have their signatures attached to it, they're able, it'll pull over all their signatures. Again, you can select what you want to view in your columns with this show here. If you ever come into this training class and something doesn't look right, check up here to see if you have any filters set, and you can always hit the reset and it's going to reset all your filters. Now you can add a class from the training classes or add from template. So if we add a class, we can select on add a class, and then we'll have to give the class a name, a category, the topic. You can choose a location and the types. Notice that none of these are required, but in our setup, we have those customized fields set to require. So when you go to save or complete, it's going to, before you can complete, it's going to want those required fields. You can start, give it a start date, a start time, end date, and end time. If you're doing any pumper or water operations, you can estimate water usage here, and then the duration of this training class. Here are those two sliders that you're able to enable self-complete attendees. So if you're creating this class and you want everyone to be able to, all the attendees to self-complete, you can use that slider. If you're required to complete all objectives simultaneously, this is that slider here. Just below that is where you're going to add instructors. You can add multiple instructors by keep selecting the plus sign. You give them a name and what kind of instructor type they were. You can delete by selecting the trash can, and then you can upload any attachments to this training record. The next tab is the objectives tab. You'll come over here and you can add objectives that are built within your agency, associate any standards to that objective, and then if you're awarding any certificates for this training class. Here is where you can allot how many hours were spent in this objective, whereas in the class, this is the duration of the whole class. So now you can get on a more granular level of each objective, how many hours were spent on that one objective. And you can add multiple objectives by hitting the plus sign. The next one is the attendees. So here we can add attendees to the roster simply by selecting on add attendee. From here, you can use all system users from the scheduler, assigned shift, unit, station, or ranks. If you're using the all system users, you can start typing in their name, hitting the magnifying glass, selecting on their name, hitting the plus, and it's going to add them into the class attendee, then select save. If you wish to add from the scheduler, again, you can search their name, select the date you're adding it from, and then select on what apparatus. If you check the checkbox, it's going to select everybody on that apparatus. Hitting the plus sign, going to pull them over, and then select save. If you've an agency that has enabled the payroll summary, this is where you're going to go in after the training class to the payroll summary. And we'll go into one of the training classes to edit to show all that. Up at the top, you'll notice save as template, complete, save, and close. So if you build a brand new training class, you can save that as a template instead of going through the setup and building the template. Again, these are all permission based from those roles that you've set up. If you try to complete this, you're going to get warnings that none of the fields, required fields, since we didn't. And then save. So if you created a training class, but it's an upcoming class, you can save this, and then it'll appear on their dashboard, and they can either go complete it or the training officer can complete it for them. Selecting close, we'll just close that. Again, from the action icon, you can always edit or delete any training classes. Now, if you're adding from a template, it's going to give you the drop down of all the templates you've created. And if we just saved that as a template, it would pop up in this list. This first one, I have that checkbox on limited edited allowed. So if I select this, I can use that template. Over here to the side, you'll notice the eye icon. It's going to drop down everything that's tied to that training class template. So select which template you'd like to use, select use template, and now it's going to take us over into that. Notice all these categories are grayed out. Again, I used that limited editeds allowed for this template. And so now I can just change the start date, time, and end date and a location, but I can no longer add any attachments or change any of these categories. And another thing on the objectives, all the objectives are non-editable when that check mark is checked. Again, you go through and you can select the attendees, add any attendees, and then once the training is completed, you can adjust the payroll summary. Now, if we wish to edit a completed class so I can show you the payroll summary tab, we're going to go in and select a pencil on a completed one. And from here, we'll navigate over to the payroll summary tab where there are people attached to this training. Excuse me, this one's already marked complete. So we're going to go to an incompleted and in progress. We'll navigate to the payroll summary. And from here, we're able to update the payroll summary. You can do one at a time by selecting on the pencil icon, or you can do it in bulk by using the checkboxes. So if I wanted to do one at a time, I could select on the pencil icon. I can select the activity type, the stipend, pay rate, point total, and then a description about that and hit save. Or I can do it in bulk by selecting the checkboxes, hit update. And now all the personnel I want to update, I can go through and check again or deselect, and then I can choose what fields I want to update. And I can choose up to all of them and then hit continue. And now I will give what activity type, pay rate, and point totals and hit save. With activity type, that is built in the activities module. So your agency, whatever they have built out, that's where you're going to drop from that activity type. Once that's all done, select save, and it's going to auto adjust the activity type and whatever else you have put in there. Next is the training log. So when we navigate to the training log, it's like the training classes. You'll have the advanced search fields at the top. Using the caret, depending on screen size, you may have filters down below. But now you can search for attending name, the class name, a start date, the duration, and a class status. From the training log, you are also able to select on the eye icon, and that's going to give you some details on that training class. At the bottom of the training log, you'll notice that there are 298. I have 20 displayed. So if I select this download CSV, it's going to download just the 20. So now I can either select 100 or 1,000 to display them all, and then I can download a CSV file. The last we're going to talk about is the certifications. From here, these are certifications that were built by adding. Now you can edit or delete any of these certifications, or you can add a new one. So if we select on add, you're going to have to give an ID name, which is usually the name of the certificate, an ID that associated to the name of the certificate, then give it a name. This expires after. So if you have a whole training class, the group went through a CPR and it expires every 2 years, you can manually enter every 2 years with this drop down. If it expires in 2 days or weeks, months, or years. Then associate all users who got the certificate during that training class. So you can type in their name, and with the drop down, you can fill in that associates, hit create, and that'll create that certificate. Once that certificate is created, you don't need to keep creating certificates for every personnel. You can then associate personnel by selecting on the pencil icon, and then who's ever associated with that, if there's a new one, you can type in their name from here and select that, and then hit update. With that, this is the caveat on anything that expires. If this one was set for those 4 and he now comes in, this will not update these 4 for the expiration. I want to note that certificates can be built here and associated. But if you need to upload the certificate to personnel, you would navigate to the personnel list. And from that personnel list, you find the person you want to associate that certificate with, and you're going to edit their certificates from this tab here. Whereas now there's a few actions I can do. I can hit on the eye icon, and I can view who was issued by, when, and an expiration date. If I select on that pencil icon, now I'm able to go in, associate the certificate with it, give it an issue date, an expiration date. If it does not expire, I can use that checkbox. I can go in and give a description. And then this is where you're going to add the certificate. So from the attachments, now I can select on that and add my attachments for that certificate, then select save. Notice the new certificate under personnel list. It says new certificate. Up here, you're going to be associating. So if you have a certificate built in and you didn't associate them within the training module, you could, from the drop-down, select what certificate they're going to acquire. Again, fill in the issue date, expiration date, if there is. If not, check the no end date. Give it a description, and in any attachments, select save. And if you do it that way, it will associate them back in the training certificates. It would add them to the associated list. That is the training module. I'd like to thank you